The meeting is live, sir.
Thank you. Welcome everyone tonight to the Williamsport City Council meeting of Thursday, November 19th, 2020. It's 6:42 p.m. We're meeting remotely again. I need to announce before we get into the agenda that we had an executive session that we just came out of, and we discussed legal matters potentially involving personnel. We'll move into the agenda now. Item 1, approval of city council minutes dated 11/05/20. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or corrections from council members? Hearing or seeing none. Mrs. Frank, on the motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Mr. Banks,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Item 2, limited courtesy of the floor. We've had no requests tonight. We'll move to item 3, appointments to the Accessibility Committee. This was reviewed in, or they were interviewed in finance, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Allison, they were.
And how did that?
And I believe we interviewed both of these candidates in the Finance Committee, as well as we've done a number of interviews in the Finance Committee. Both of these candidates seemed exceptionally competent. I think we're all probably familiar with Max Moore. I, for instance, went to high school with his mother, and Tyler as well. It seemed as though they would both be assets to the Accessibility Committee. I don't know if Mr. Mackey wants to address these candidates a little further, as the person who I believe initially sort of spoke with them and talked to them.
Yes, Mr. Mackey, would you offer your assessment?
Yeah, I was able to sit in on both interviews for Tyler and Max, and it's just a quick correction. It's Tyler Mogavero, Mogavero. His name's spelled wrong on the agenda, but yeah, both of these gentlemen really expressed a lot of interest early on in this process, and I think after speaking with both of them, I think they'll both be real assets to this commission, and I look forward to working with them.
Thank you, Mr. Mackey, and thank you for all your diligence and hard work on putting this together. Any other comments or questions from council members? Okay.
Mr. Allison, if I can just ask, can I ask one quick question of Mr. Mackey, if that's all right?
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey, these two potential appointments to council, where do they leave us in terms of members that we still need on the Accessibility Commission?
Yeah, so again, City Council will appoint 3. This would be 2 for City Council, which would leave us with 1 more appointment to make. And then the mayor will also appoint 2 members. I still am actively working on getting some more names. So, and I don't know if the mayor can speak to where he's at, if he's able to, if he's been able to secure any names.
I've reached out to a few. I don't have any confirmations as of yet. I'm hoping in the very near future to hear something one way or the other. One seems a little promising, but we'll have to see.
And Mayor, I will email you tomorrow just to make sure we're not talking to the same people. But I hope to have at least 2 more candidates on committee agendas next. Well, I guess it would be the 1st would be the next committee.
Yeah, the 1st of December, I think, is our next committee meeting. Finance Committee, Public Safety and Public Works. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mackey. Just wanted to check and see where we were at there. And Mr. Allison, as I said, we spoke to both of these individuals in the Finance Committee. Both seem exceptionally competent, obviously capable of
Mhm.
advising us in particular on this matter. But frankly, they're just people who will be an asset to city government in general. And I would personally recommend both of them to serve on the commission. Thank you.
So, no other questions. Let's have a motion and second on Mr. Mogavero first, Tyler Mogavero, for appointment to the Accessibility Committee.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion on Mr. Mogavero? Hearing or seeing none. Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Banks,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. And could I have a motion and a second for Mr. Max Moore for appointment to the Accessibility Committee?
Move.
Second.
There's a move and a second. Is there any more discussion on that? Hearing or seeing none. Mrs. Frank on that motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Banks,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank, and thank you to Mr. Mogavero and Mr. Moore for stepping forward and offering their services on the newly formed Accessibility Committee. We'll move to item 4. Would you read that in short form, please, Mrs. Frank?
An ordinance and first reading, 47th year 2021 Community Development Budget.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Is there a motion and a second from council?
So move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Welcome, Mr. Nemi, and you're up to discuss this item.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of council. We presented this to the Finance Committee on Tuesday, and I'll try to give a brief synopsis of the information that you have in front of you, and then I'm willing to entertain any questions that you might have. This is the 2021 budget for CDBG and Home. The anticipated revenue is $1,362,506. That's broken down to CDBG of $1,039,000. The home program, $208,506, and home program income of $115,000. The anticipated expenditures are as follows. Under public facilities and improvements, we're looking at $716,864. And that gets broken down into street construction and reconstruction of $400,000. The removal of architectural barriers at $80,000. The Willow Street design is $183,914, and program delivery is $52,950. Under public services, we're looking at a total of $21,530, and that breakdown is as follows. The Lycoming County SPCA for their spay and neuter program and their live catch and spay neuter program, $10,000. Fire Tree for its after school program for the youth of Williamsport, $8,000. Program delivery of $3,530. The next major item is the housing rehab and preservation program. and that total will be $330,753, broken down as to owner-occupied single-family grants and loan program for code and safety repair of $141,016, handicapped accessibility is $15,000. The program delivery is $174,737. Then we have the home buyer assistance through our CHODO, which we are required to set aside 15%. And that would be the Greater Lycoming Habitat for Humanity of $30,000. And then the city's home buyer assistance program of $15,000. So the home buyer assistance program's total is $45,000. Under blight elimination, we're looking at a total expenditure of $19,709. Codes related demolition, $15,000. Program delivery, $4,709. And a question that Finance Committee had asked, we did complete a demolition through the codes office in the first quarter of 2020. Looking to do another one yet, hopefully before the end of the year. Then we have the home and CDBG administration of $228,650. 20% of that is the allocation under CDBG, and 10% comes from the home program. Those are the maximums as allowed by Housing and Urban Development. That's as brief as I can be, Mr. Chairman. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Memmi. It was reviewed in finance. Ms. Mealy?
Yes, it was. And finance forwarded it to the full body of council with a positive recommendation. The majority of finance's discussion centered around just some questions related to the Willow Street design. The CDBG budget is perhaps actually even simpler this year than it usually is. I know that for the last several years, we've had a small portion of the budget going to the rescue workers. And sometimes we have a handful of projects in that sort of first category where we handle streets. But this year it's pretty cut and dried. So the main discussion item was the amount of funding that we'd incorporated for the Willow Street design and exactly what was intended moving forward with the Willow Street project. We had received several years ago, and you'll excuse me, I did not remember to look this up, but a couple of years ago, we had received a $1 million grant to create a green alley on Willow Street. But the grant funds are for infrastructure for the actual build out. The design cannot be taken out of those grant funds. Consequently, we will be funding the design portion. But I believe from the discussion at Finance Committee that in terms of the money that we have in the Willow Street project, which of course is part of the larger East 3rd Street project, we have $67,000 from the foundation, the First Community Foundation, and $11,000 from the city from a line of borrowing, I believe, Mr. Pavlak, but you might need to correct me there, as well as this designated funding from community development. And the concept is we have 7 bids for the design work, and we will be looking at those and choosing one in December, according to the city engineer. The idea would be that between the amount of the bid and the administrative costs within community development, that $183,914 would cover the totality of the design costs. The major issue, of course, will be exactly what we wind up including in that design and to what extent the design, the cost of the design is in line with what we had originally estimated several years ago now when we asked for and received the grant funding. But that said, everything was in line with the budget. And Mr. Mamie did an admirable job presenting it under the circumstances. City Hall had been briefly shut down, and Mr. Mamie was working from home without all the documentation, and he handled himself very well. So thank you, thank you for that, and we'll look forward to further discussion.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Nikki.
Randy.
You're welcome. Thank you. Other comments from Finance Committee members? Or anybody on council? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Banks,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Sorry, Janice. Yes.
that's okay, Mr. Allison.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Frank. And there's the CVBG and community development money for next year, Mr. Minnie. So congratulations and thank you for your initial presentation to us. Let's move to item 5. Except for filing, Public Works meeting minutes of 7/7/20, Public Safety meeting minutes of 7/7/20, Finance meeting minutes of November 3rd, 2020, and ERC meeting minutes of 10/23/2020. Is there a motion and a second from council?
So moved.
so move.
Are there any questions or corrections, anything on any of these minutes from council to discuss? I hear and see none. So Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes,
Mr. Banks,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. I have announcements. The budget session number 1 is Monday, November 30th, 2020 at 7 p.m. And budget session number 2 is Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020 at 7 p.m. The next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be held on Thursday, December 3rd, 2020 at 6:30 remotely. So we have a busy week there. Upcoming meetings, Friday, November 19th at 11 a.m. is ERC, that's tomorrow. And they do have an agenda and an item to discuss, or more maybe. Thursday, November 26th, City Hall is closed for Thanksgiving Day. Friday, November 27th, City Hall is also closed. Monday, November 30th is our budget session, and Tuesday, December 1st, 11:30 a.m. Public Safety, 1 p.m. Finance meeting, 2:30 p.m. Public Works meeting. Then we have our other city council meetings that week. Are there any comments from council members tonight? Okay. Oh, I will announce that we're going to have an executive session after we adjourn tonight. Any comments from the administration tonight? Mayor Sly.
Just briefly, just as you know, as COVID is starting to rear its head again here, an uptick in our area, just to remind everybody to stay vigilant, try to adhere to the guidance, and continue to work together, stay healthy, stay safe as we all try to get through this together. So just ask people to continue to hang in there, and let's work together to get through this.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Slaughter. Good thoughts there. And anything else from the administration? I don't see anything. Are there comments from the public tonight?
Yeah, yes, President Allison, there's one comment through the electronic commenting system. President Council Allison, My name is Jay Harner. I interviewed on November 3 to be part of the Accessibility Commission for the city. After my interview, Councilman Mackey emailed me questioning my address and exactly where I lived in connection within the city. After a little research, it appears that I do not live within the city limits and do not qualify to be part of the commission. I want to state to the council how disappointed I am to not be able to provide my insight, experience, thoughts, and ideas to the proposed commission. Being a quadriplegic for the past 23 years, I've dealt with many prejudices, lack of access, and many misunderstandings that come along with having a disability. It was my hope that being part of the commission would bring some of these experiences to the forefront involving accessibility throughout the city. While I may not live directly inside city limits, I am a full-time employee that works within the city of Williamsport. I also pay Williamsport city taxes, and my children go to Williamsport Area School District. I believe by limiting the pool of applicants to directly live within the city limits, you are handcuffing yourself to potential candidates for the commission. I understand the statement may be too little, too late for the commission and its structure, but I believe the commission should have a voice be heard for those who live directly outside of the city. If it is possible, I urge you to reconsider adding a position into the commission for someone who fits this description. And President Allison, that's the conclusion of the public comments.
Okay.